Well, millions of students across the nation are at college for the first time this year, discovering their newfound independence. But for nearly a fifth of students, additional challenges stand in the way of that freedom. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Erin LeBeau.
I'm Tamsin Fidel. Well, statistics show that 19% of college students in the U.S. have a disability. Approximately 7% have some form of a physical disability. And that's why it is crucial for both parents and also incoming college students with disabilities to advocate for accommodations and accessibility to help with the transition process.
Yeah, and joining us now to talk about it is Mark Bogosian. He's the Quality of Life Director for individuals with paralysis at the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you both so much for having me.
All right, Mark, let's jump right in and talk about this. Are there any obstacles that disabled students and their families face when choosing where their child goes to school?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, here, though, at the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, we firmly believe just 100% that, you know, any student, a student living with paralysis or a student living with any disability, you know, they can have an incredible, successful experience with the right preparation. So I like to kind of think of these as not obstacles, but things to really consider. And, you know, one thing I really want to urge is, you know, think about the physical accessibility on campus. You know, you got to getting into the dorms, getting into dining halls or a library. You know, many campuses have those swipe cards, and, you know, some people with physical limitations, living with quadriplegia, don't have hand dexterity, so they're not able to do that swiping. So, you know, we need to start thinking about those kinds of accommodations. Is the campus you're going to, is it in a place that has a lot of snow, a lot of ice, a lot of rain? You know, getting ready in the morning takes that extra time. If you're somebody with a disability or physical limitation, you don't have the arm movements, you don't have the motion to be able to help get yourself dressed, you know, just you're going to need that extra time. What about, like, if you're in a hot or humid environment? There are, you know, people living with paralysis that are not able to regulate their body temperature. You know, and then there's the, you know, the kind of like, is it a hilly campus? Are the classes spread out far apart? You know, you have to think about getting your wheelchair around, or is there accessible transportation? Distance from home is a huge one as well. Are you going to have access to your same doctors or your specialists? And, you know, what about, like, if your wheelchair breaks down? You know, is there a place nearby where you can get your wheelchair repaired? So a lot of things to think about, but especially living without your parents is certainly a huge one. And for some people, you know, certainly living with paralysis, depending on their level of injury or their condition, you know, they may need a personal care attendant. So they might need somebody there to, you know, help them in the morning. You know, do they need help with, you know, bathroom routines, which, you know, could be toileting or showering?
Mark, let me ask you something. You mentioned parents, and so for parents with teens in high school now that could be choosing where they continue their higher education, you've just mentioned there is a lot to consider. What are some of the questions that students with disabilities should ask colleges?
Oh, definitely. Well, you know, I mean, I think before you know, even start to ask, I think if you have the opportunity to visit the campus, please do so, to kind of get those questions asked. Right. But every college and university has a disability service organization. And, you know, and if they don't, they have an administrator who can really help that, you know, help ask those kinds of questions about accessibility. Like, you want to know, you know, what are the reasonable accommodations you can ask? You know, what one thing that I would always have a student ask is, before they go to, you know, any college or university, is connect me with other students who are living with a situation like I am. You know, are there other students with wheelchairs that are at this university? That's how you learn. You learn what they've learned. You've learned from their successes. You've learned from their challenges, and it's a great way to really learn.
So, Mark, let's talk about it from the vantage point of the colleges and universities. Currently, are they accommodating students with disabilities? What exactly are they doing to make the transition a little bit easier?
Yeah, absolutely. And they are. You know, as I said, every college has a, you know, a disability support office. You know, they help kind of determine what the accommodations you're going to need would be. They help really put them into action. They also, you know, they can provide academic supports, and they're a really great resource. Again, connecting you with other people. But before you even do that, I think you need to know a little bit about yourself. You know, what are the supports that you need? Do you need help taking notes? Do you need an accessible desk? Do you need more types of accessible, what we call assistive technology? Some students with paralysis, they're going to need to have the lecture recorded. Some are going to need to have all resources in a PDF, or they might even need a screen reader. So know what you need and then ask.
Such an important conversation to be having and to continue having. Mark, thanks for being with us this afternoon and helping us shine a light on this topic.
Thank you both so much.